Yo, 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 what's good? What's good? It's Stormy B Man, and I am back, welcoming you to Kung Fu Film Focus for this Monday, June 26th, 2023. And tonight we are featuring a classic basher from 1974. Many people may remember this from the Grindhouse Theater days. Some may have only seen it once or multiple times when it played in the Grindhouse theaters. The film for this evening's focus is Dragons Never Die, aka Kung Fu 10th Dan. A little low budget independent film in the midst of the Kung Fu genre that gave people laughs, thrills, and plenty of martial action. This film actually pontificates the fact of what a basher is. It opens with fight scenes. It closes with fight scenes. There are fight scenes throughout the film. Some will make you laugh. Some will make you cringe. And a lot of it is just good old-fashioned entertainment from the Kung Fu film genre. A lot of familiar faces in this film. Some of these players went on to other films. Some of them were very popular. Some of them fell by the wayside. But it was all what the Kung Fu film genre was. To me, I had forgotten about this movie, believe it or not, until about 5 years ago when I was combing through one of the online shops where I shop for Kung Fu films. And I saw the title in their library and I was like, oh, heck no, they've got this? And I couldn't help it. I ordered it straight away. And mind you, I had not seen this film since the late 70s. The film is from 1974. And as I said, some of the players, you will recognize their faces in here. Okay? You will recognize the faces. But it's just great to be able to see that the film did make it to DVD. When I was collecting VHS, it was not available on VHS. Here we have the original theatrical poster that was released in the US, a very basic poster. I mean, you wouldn't think much of it. It's got the lead actor, Alex Lung, there pictured in the white karate gi with the bandana on his head. And in the backdrop, there's Han Yen Kit from Bruce Lee's The Big Boss. The Big Boss at the end of the film that Lee had to fight. They called him Boss Mai in that film. He's the baddie in this one. And it's one of those things where when you revisit this type of fare, you realize that some of these actors, these role players, they returned over and over again. Han Yen Kit in this film played Master Hen Lung, and he was a nasty old soul in this one, just as he had been in other films. I think some of his best roles was playing a baddie. He did play a good guy in some films, like Jackie Chan's Lo Wei directed New Fist of Fury. He played one of the instructors for the Chingwu School. And in that film, he got kicked around and everything, but he was a good guy in that film. So it's funny when you see some of these guys, doing what they do, and then you find out like, oh, these men are more comfortable, more likable in the roles that we prefer them. So we have starring here Alex Lung, who didn't star in a lot of Hong Kong films, but he did make the rounds during the heyday, the midst of the Kung Fu film craze, which basically lasted in America from, I want to say, 1972 through 1978. That was the heyday of the Kung Fu film craze for the U.S. Now, there are some others who collect these films, who are interested in these films and are deep studiers of this genre. They may argue that the craze went on a little longer or maybe even shorter. But you have to know that Kung Fu films really took off in the mid-70s. They really did. And the biggest star of the genre had already passed away 2 years into the movement, and that was Bruce Lee. So there was a lot of leeway and space for film producers and directors to try to find a new star to fill that void. And we saw a little bit of everything, but a number of these actors and stars were real martial artists, because once Bruce Lee kicked off that series of films where actually knowing martial arts benefited, studios sought real martial artists. Now, Alex Lung in this film is a real life martial artist. And you can typically tell the real martial artists because when they perform the choreography, their movements are much more sharper and crisp. Now, he plays a character called Li Chi Ching. And Li Chi Ching is A Wandering Man. And that's actually one of the aliases of the film title. It actually has several titles: Dragons Never Die, Kung Fu 10th Dan, The Wander Man. See, and those were the titles of this film. Depending upon where in the world it was released, you would know it by those titles. It was a originally Hong Kong made film. The language, it was filmed and dubbed in Mandarin. The director of this film was Chen Chi-hua, who was known for some of the low budget films of that era. He had directed films such as this film, Kung Fu 10th Dan, Dragons Never Die. Also, a Jackie Chan film, Snake and Crane Arts of Shaolin from 1978. The Imperial Sword from 1977. He also was in a number of Kung Fu films himself. Acting. Another of his popular Kung Fu films from the 70s is the 36 Crazy Fist, Angela Mao's Dance of Death, and also Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, a Jackie Chan comedy from 1978. One of the things about these kind of films, saw a number of people get opportunities because it was wide open after the death of Bruce Lee, that the genre needed a new direction, new stars. And Alex Leung, also known as Leung Ji-fei, had only starred in films from 1973 to 1975. And as far as a leading man, that was a short film career. Only 7 films did he star in. This film, also a film called Duel of the Dragons from 1973. Another film from 1973 called Not Scared to Die. He Walks Like a Tiger. The Chinese Tiger. Death Blow. And Bruca, Queen of Evil. For whatever reason, he didn't catch on as much as you would have thought that he would, playing in the films that he played in. But you could also tell that his martial arts was true. I was trying to study up on some of his martial arts background, the teaching and skill set, but I hadn't been able to nail that down yet. But I enjoyed watching him cinematically. He was very entertaining. So as we look forward into this feature talking about this film, there was one other actor who played in here along with Leung Ji-fei, and that was the famous character actor, and you'll see his photo there when I put it up. Han Kwok Choi. Han Kwok Choi, pictured just beneath Alex Leung and Han Yin Kit, was usually a character actor and an acrobat and stuntman in Hong Kong films, and he was popular in the early to mid 70s. He passed away in 2017, but was known through his career playing like the guy who always got bullied or whatever. Every once in a while, he would play a capable martial artist, but he was never the leading man. He was always a sidekick or even put in for comedy relief. And in this film, he plays the younger brother of Alex Lung's character. And in this film, he was also given the opportunity to display some of his fighting skills. Though he looked like he was portraying a cripple in the film, his character name was Chow Chan. Chow Chan walked like he had one leg shorter than the other. And the synopsis of this story was very simple. Alex Lung's character, Li Ching and Chow Chan walked the provinces, the countrysides, challenging fighters, martial artists, bandits, because Li Ching wanted to prove his martial prowess. The story subtext was, as a small child, he watched his dad get beaten up in a personal fight. And what happened was he vowed that he would avenge his dad's brutal beating by taking on anyone who could face down in martial arts his self-taught skills. They showed him training in the wilderness and everything in flashback sequences from being a young child. And that's why the film is called Kung Fu 10th Dan. His skill set was so prominent and strong that he was able to improve to a degree that when he walked through the countrysides challenging, like I said, bandits, bad guys, martial instructors, and he was defeating them all, he was showing his prowess. And his little brother accompanying him, Chow Chan, would walk up and challenge the people. They would say, "Hey, you think you're good in Kung Fu martial arts?" He was like, "I bet you can't beat my brother." You know, he'd say, "My brother is martial artist 10th Dan." And then they would fight. It was as simple as that. But the fight scenes were robust. They were long and drawn out. Plenty of the sound effects that you remember. Blows being struck, you know. But entertaining all the while. This film, like I said, when I found out that it was available on DVD, I was like, oh man, I gotta get this. And its trailer was one of the most fun trailers that you'd ever see. But I remember this film and I was like, wow, I can't believe they put this out on DVD. Like I said, the Kung Fu film genre is so vast, man. There are hundreds of these films, literally. And some titles you may not have even heard of, starring familiar people and faces. Because when they would get distributed and shipped to the US, some were packaged and dubbed for the US market. Many did not have dubs. Many were subtitled, and they showed in the Chinatowns of theaters across the US, primarily owned by not Raymond Chow, but Run Shaw, believe it or not. So there was a cornered market on these films, and you wouldn't be able to see them unless you went to Chinatown when they were in their original Mandarin languages. But there were plenty of these films. Now, there's an interesting sidebar to this film is that some of the actors that they got, I think this was filmed somewhere near Indonesia or even the Philippines, because there are definitely actors in here and martial artists who are not Chinese. They are not Hong Kong martial artists. These guys look like they come from a different place in the Far East. And you can see it. And I don't know if they thought that the audiences wouldn't recognize, oh, that dude ain't Chinese or what. But that was part of the fun in some of these films. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things. You would get beyond it. Because like this photo I have on the screen right now, this is a group of guys. They look like they could be Thai. They could be Indonesian. They're definitely not Chinese. And this was played throughout the film. Let me go to the chat for a moment and see who we got in the building. It looks like pickings are a little slim this evening, but that's okay. Who we got out there? We had Dre. Oh, excuse me. Chi-Town's Finest was out there. Appreciate Chi-Town stopping in while he could. IGM Tim was out there saluting, saying good to be home. Woke is in the building saying peace, OG. Had to take a sip of my water, excuse me. Just Do Boxing in the building saying Stormy B-Man, salute, Sensei, OG. Respect to the chat family. Appreciate you, man. Yahweh, No Smoke TV in the building saying Sensei. Yes, sir. 704 Joe is in the building saying peace. Hey, man, 704 Joe, do you remember this one, bro? Do you remember this one? Dragons Never Die. Listen, man. This is one of those films that you just grab you some popcorn and you just sit there and watch. This film would never win any awards unless it's a Raz award or something like that. Raspberry, right? But it was entertaining, man. And this is what we went to the theaters for. Sometimes when we would see the trailers for these films, we'd be, oh yeah, man, I can't wait to go see that one, you know. Kids, huh? This takes me back, man. It really does. I'm speaking with so much joy tonight on this because that's exactly what it was. It's exactly what it was. Shogun 76 is in the building. The Shogun of Harlem. He says, salute to my Kung Fu brother. Salute right back at you, bro. Salute right back at you. Thelsh 9 says, what's good? What's good with you? Does anyone who's out there right now know of this film? Anyone? A show of hands. Type in the chat. Let me know. Because again, when we talk about Basher, this film is one of the ultimate bashers of all time. One of the ultimate. Just an amazing time at the theater, man. An amazing time at the theater. Thelsh, the other names for this film are Kung Fu 10th Dan and The Wander Man. Like wandering around, The Wander Man. Because that's what Alex Lung Ji Fei's character did. He wandered the lands to challenge people in Kung Fu. And he would wear this little bandana on his head or headband that said Kung Fu 10th Dan on it in Chinese. And he would challenge guys and beat the crap out of them. If you were a villain, he really relished beating the crap out of you. If you were a martial instructor, he wanted to beat the crap out of you to show he was better in Kung Fu than you. But he wasn't a bad guy. He was an anti-hero. It was like he was one of those guys that he wanted to just kick people's behind. That's who he was in this film. Now, I don't know, 704 Joe may have left us, but I was asking if he remembered this title. But this film was also a film that played a part of a double bill from the early 70s. There was one more character in this film that I'm trying to get to it. Another character in this film played by a Japanese gentleman by the name of Sumeno Yukio. Sumeno played in a number of martial art films, a number of them. You would recognize his little pudgy face and a little mustache. He played in Shaw Brothers films as bad guys typically, and he was Japanese. So even in this film, he played Japanese. So that's what he did here, you know. And he was known for kicking some tail in this particular film. But Lung Ji-Fei's character really whipped on him in this movie. And the final battle between he and Han Yin-kit was reminiscent of the fight that Bruce Lee had with Han Yin-kit at the end of The Big Boss. So I think they were trying to channel that energy from the success of that film, The Big Boss. So yeah. I wanted to say that we're going to have a moment of sharing. We got my man Drew Titan LLC in the chat now, and he's there also along with Bear Cave Entertainment and the Painful Excellence Podcast. Appreciate you showing up, bro. But we're going to take a quick moment out and revisit the original theatrical trailer for Dragons Never Die. For some of you who are old enough to remember this or remember some of the Grindhouse Theater material, you will recognize this trailer if you've been around long enough. No, it's not a Bruce Lee spoof there, Thelsh 9. It's not, believe it or not. But a lot of the people that played in this film were around that era of Bruce Lee films. So, and a couple of them played in Bruce Lee's films as stuntmen or whatever. But yeah, we're going to do this Dragons Never Die trailer. So enjoy, everybody. And fair use, we're calling. Fair use. One second here. I'll start it over for you guys. I'm sorry I had the audio muted. Dragons Never Die trailer. Fair use. Fair use.
Dragons never die.
Fair use.
In the tradition of Bruce Lee, it's the martial arts movie of the year with the same international karate champions that thrilled you in Enter the Dragon and the Fist of Fury. Dragons never die. It's super tough. Dragons never die. Take your mama to see it before somebody else does. Dragons Never Die in head-busting color, rated R.
Man, I tell you, these movies, man, they're great. I'm telling you, they are great, man. You gotta enjoy them, man. You gotta enjoy some kung fu, man. Let me tell you. This used to play in the theater as a part of a double bill with a film called Devil Woman, which was about this woman like Medusa, and she was in there. And then there's some guys in the film from the kung fu movies, so it's like it's a kung fu horror thing going on. It was a little mishmash of everything. So Devil Woman and Dragons Never Die, a part of a double bill. There's actually a trailer online that shows both of these trailers together, Devil Woman and this film. So, hey, just let it be known, man. Stormy be digging this stuff up, man. I have to dig into my crates for these old films like this, but it's why I enjoy it, man. And you should too, huh? Do yourself a solid and go check out some of this horrible kung fu fare. Dragons Never Die. The plot is razor thin. But I'm going to tell you something. This film is loaded with action and kung fu, man. You heard the sound effects, right? It's like... Listen, man. That's what it's all about. Look at Thrush out there. He says, I'm going to watch it tonight. Hey, man, you should. Did you find out where you can see it there, Thrush? Did you find it? It's online. It's online, man. Yeah. Now check this out. In the trailer when he says, take your mama to see it before somebody else does, that doesn't mean your maternal mom. In the 70s, they used to refer to their women as my mama. That's my mama there. You know what I'm saying? Hey, mama. You know, that kind of thing. So when they say take your mama, that's like you're a woman, you're a squeeze, you know. So that's what, you know, that was some slang for the date and time. So I'm just kind of explaining that and breaking it down because some of y'all ain't old enough to know that. But that's exactly what that is. So he said, oh, that's a go-to channel for me. Okay. The Wu-Tang channel? Yeah, man. No, Thels, it don't have multicam choreography, bro. This was 1973. That's when everything was still crude. They did all their editing in cam. Hunyan Kit played in the movies for a long time, man. He passed away in 1990. He was born in 1955. I'm sorry, he was born in 1927. And Hanyan Kit, let me tell you guys something about him. When he played in films, he brought something to the film industry that at that time that they did not know anything about. He was one of the original martial arts stuntmen and choreographers when he started making kung fu films in the 60s and starring in action roles. He was the first one to bring the trampoline special effect to the screen. So when guys would jump on the trampolines and fly up in the air, of course the trampolines were kept off camera, right? But you'll see guys do a jump and then go up in the air, or sometimes they'll just cut them going up in the air and cut out the jump. But he introduced the effect of the trampoline in kung fu films. A lot of people did not know that about him. He starred in King Hua's Come Drink With Me. He played a stunt double. And he perfected the trampoline stunt. When he played in The Big Boss with Bruce Lee, if you remember and go back to that film, Bruce Lee did a lot of trampoline stunts in that film, and it was one of his only Hong Kong kung fu films that he used the trampoline to such effect. In fact, Bruce Lee actually got hurt on the set of The Big Boss from a trampoline stunt. Landed wrong on his foot and twisted his ankle really badly. So in the last part of filming for the final fight scene against Hanyan Kit, he was dragging his foot around, and they added that into the fight scene like he got cut on the leg, but he had a bad ankle, so he couldn't do some of the fighting that he would normally do. And Bruce Lee perfected the trampoline jumps, because if you look at him when he in Fist of Fury, I keep saying, well, it's The Big Boss. The trampoline stunts where he does the flying kicks in the end of the film, he does it about 2 or 3 times. He really got a lot of height, and he got a lot of physical expression out of his flying kicks in the film. A lot better than some of the other actors of that genre. But Hanyan Kit does this wonderful scene in The Big Boss as well, where he's outside of his mansion and his men are practicing, and he tells them, hey, step aside. Let me show you how it's done. And he starts sparring with his bodyguards or whatever. And there's this great scene where he jumps up over the guys and lands and does a in the air somersault over the guys, and then he lands and he pulls his 2 knives out like he's gonna stab the guys. And that was him showing off his trampoline choreography in the film. So a lot of people are unaware of that too. So that's just a little tidbit for historical sake. Just wanted to share that with you guys. But Hanyan Kit was awesome, man. He was originally going to play the bad guy in Enter the Dragon. But something happened with he and Bruce Lee. I think they had got into it or something. And so Bruce Lee looked to go a different way, and he went with Shi Ken, who had been a long time martial artist and movie baddie, starring in dozens of the original Wong Fei-hung films, and he usually played the main villain of Wong Fei-hung. So, and Shi Ken was also a like a grandpa to Bruce Lee, even when Bruce Lee was making films as a child in Hong Kong. So he was like a big granddad to Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee respected him a lot and awarded him with the lead role of Han in Enter the Dragon. But Han Yin Kit was originally going to be Han in Enter the Dragon, so that would have been a second showdown with he and Bruce Lee as the film's bad guy. And I think he could have worked even better than Sheik Ken worked as the baddie. He was definitely more of a martial artist in a younger stage, because I think he was in his 40s when Bruce Lee and he had done The Big Boss, and Sheik Ken was in his 60s. So that just lets you know he was a lot younger than Sheik Ken. Yeah, Thelsh, that is straight raw. That's what we call bashers. Bashers, and I explained that in a couple of other shows, that bashers is a term that actually comes from the UK, from over in Europe, how they describe the action in these no weapons type martial art films where the guys are fighting just hand and foot combat. Because the original martial art films had swords, and the samurai films definitely had swords. So when the hand and foot action came along, popularized by Jimmy Wong Yu's Chinese boxer from 1970, that's the way people decided to go with the choreography. And the choreography started out quite crude early on, but it began to pick up the pace when some of the original Chinese opera performers and some of the stuntmen got together and started forming these groups that would work on these films and create choreography that would stand the test of time. See. Yeah, man, we try to bring a little backdrop on these films when I do this show. That's what it's all about. It's about, it's easy to just talk about the film. Oh, remember this scene, remember that scene. But I try to tell you a little bit about the actors, the martial artists who participated, the choreographers, their backdrops, because some of these men had some very interesting stories that led them to cinematic, legendary performances. There are so many now who don't even realize how popular they were because the film studio executives hid the fact of how much money they were making on these movies. Believe it or not, international distribution brought in those producers millions of dollars, and they did not share the profits. So yeah, I see we only have like 4 people out there. If you guys got any questions for me, please ask them. I got a few minutes left in the show, and I'm more than willing to kind of, share some more knowledge or answer some questions or try to answer some of you guys' questions if you have some. Let's make the most of these last few minutes. Thels 9 says, yeah, Come Drink With Me is a masterpiece. So many movies took styles from that flick, including Bruce and Sonny Chiba. Yeah, man. And Chong Pei Pei really held it down in that film, didn't she? She was so awesome in that movie. And in the follow-up sequel, Golden Swallow, they kind of dialed her back because she was a badass in Come Drink With Me. But in Golden Swallow, Jimmy Wong Yu came in and his character dominated the film, and they made her like a second, if not third role character in there. But she really held it down in Come Drink With Me. I love to watch Come Drink With Me. It's a classic of the genre. And maybe I'll do a Kung Fu film focus on that because it is a marked film for the era. It is, definitely. King Hua made a masterpiece. And you're so right, Thels 9, when you say that. He says, saying that the opera house performers were involved in stunts and choreography explains why sometimes men would wear heavy makeup. Well, you're talking about the Peking opera performers and everything. But in these films, this is how they made, extra wages, being stuntmen for films like this. When the martial art Kung Fu film craze took off, it gave those opera troupe performers another way to show their skills and their prowess. Sammo Hung, Jackie Chan, Yuen Biao, Yuen Hua, and Corey Yuen, all the Yuens, all of them were part of those opera troupes. And for them to get an opportunity to have careers in cinema, it really, helped them sustain their skills and display their artistry. Yeah. I don't know what their base pay was. I don't have that information on their salaries and stuff like that. But I do know that a lot of the artists back in the 70s would sign 7-year picture deals with studios, whether it was Golden Harvest or if it was Shaw Brothers. Contracted performers would sign 7-year deals. At Shaw Brothers, they lived in the dormitories. They attended classes on acting and choreography, fighting, and stuff like that. It was ran like the old Hollywood studios of the early 30s. But even the top stars didn't make a lot of money. Every once in a while, like Run Shaw would give his stars a bonus, but a lot of them didn't make a lot of money. They did not. Raymond Chow was, when he formed Golden Harvest, because he used to work for Shaw Brothers. He was originally Run Shaw's right-hand man. But when he broke away from Shaw's, he took a couple of the film executives with him, and he formed Golden Harvest Studios. He was one of the first to start paying actors an inflated salary and not just a contracted salary. So that's why a lot of actors would go and work for Golden Harvest Studios, because they could make a little bit more money than they would make working for Run Shaw. Run Shaw and Raymond Chow became bitter rivals and enemies during their heyday of the 70s. So no one has any other questions, huh? It's okay, man. It's okay because, like I said before, I come on here, I do this, I try to, present this to you guys the best way I can. It's not everybody's cup of tea, But I love Kung Fu films. That's why I like to come on and talk about them. One more time before we get out of here. And I want to say fair use.
Dragons never die.
Fair use.
In the tradition of Bruce Lee, it's the martial arts movie of the year with the same international
Fair use.
karate champions that thrilled you in Enter the Dragon and the Fist of Fury. Dragons never die. It's super tough. Dragons never die. Take your mama to see it before somebody else does. Dragons never die in head-busting color, rated R.
Man, that's awesome, man. If you don't like that kind of stuff, man, you ain't alive, huh? There's something wrong with you. Drew Titan says, man, I can smell the popcorn from the grindhouse looking at this. I know, right? It's like awesome, man. That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. Yeah, man. So with that, man, I'm going to get ready to get on out of here, release you guys out into the atmosphere of whatever you like to do beyond this. And I'm going to go watch me another Kung Fu film so I can get ready to present you guys with another one. So with that being said, man, thank you everybody who came out, smash my like button, and show some support here. But this is what it is, man. Kung Fu Film Focus. If you don't know, now you know. I'm out. Have a great week, everybody. Shout out to the mighty LDBC.